Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening. Happy Friday. I wish it were a happier Friday, but we're going to take it where it goes tonight. Welcome, everybody, to our podcast, Seer Mastermind Group coming together to tell you and share with you our story, our journey, our way. Tonight, I have three phenomenal individuals that I love working with, I love meeting with, and all of them who can drop the mic, dropping knowledge from various backgrounds. Just real quick, introduce yourselves. Who we got rocking with us tonight? Youngest to oldest.
Brother Mensa Bay, artist, visual artist, Richmond native, Norfolk resident, educator.
The host is gonna go last, so go ahead, Majida.
All right, so I'm Majida Bay. I am founder of Ronnie Bay Enterprises. I'm a mother of two, sister of four. I guess I'm one of five anyway. And I'm your friend in finance. So that's me. Oh yeah, and I do project management as well. Construction, I do project management.
It's like 13, 14 years in that,
Yeah,
Light work. And the mastermind of the mastermind.
Okay. I'm Maurice Bay, and right now I'm actually hot. We just had a power outage down in New Kent, and the air and everything, the lights and everything just came back on. And I'm rather hot right now, but
all right.
But I'm a truck driver, and I'm into online marketing, man.
Outstanding.
And he's a husband and a father. And...
Oh yeah. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm all that good stuff too.
Outstanding. And of course, I am Bakar Bay, an entrepreneur, host of Our Story, Our Journey, Our Way, trained engineer, professional trader now, and financial professional as well. Working with this team just to help all of us come together in order to build generational wealth and model it, from the ground up. That's what we're working on here. So tonight we've got a phenomenal show for you. I want to do a quick, man, there's a lot. There's so much that we got to talk about that's been going on. So I don't want to waste any time. Real quick, last week we talked about mental health and, symptoms of anxiety. And I just want to highlight, I dropped the mic moment last week, and I hope our guest, Zenobia Bay of Community 50/50. If you didn't check out that episode, please go check out that as soon as you can. Really powerful conversation. But one of the things that she really pointed out that I thought was really powerful was just how important it was to understand that a great place to start is understanding a great place to start when it comes to developing, healthy and positive mental health is finding the things that bring you peace and calm, right? And I don't think it could be overstated. We may talk about it and it may seem simple, but just knowing that to start is just being able to check in and say, are these the things that bring me peace, that bring me calm, as opposed to distress or stress in my life. So powerful moment. I mean, there's just so many nuggets from that. You have to go watch it. You have to go see it. But tonight, man, we've got a nation in civil unrest right now. I think in one of the most unique times in our history. We've got a global pandemic that's been affecting everyone, right? No matter what your job, career, background is, everyone's been affected. And now in the midst of it, another case of state-sanctioned violence, police brutality that resulted in the unfortunate death of our brother George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I just want to start off, I woke up Sunday morning in my bubble. I done had my head down to the grindstone and, Reseda posted my city, Richmond, Virginia, was burning last Saturday. And I had no clue what was going on. So I've been getting caught up over the last week. But I want to pose the question, what were you thinking? What were you guys thinking when, those protests kicked off last Friday and through the weekend and, turns into rioting and the police response this weekend and all of what's been going on over the past week in this pandemic environment? What have your reactions have been to what's going on?
I'm gonna let somebody else go first on that one.
All right. Cool. I'll go. I want to say that it's initially, things started occurring in up in Minneapolis, and first thing I see is a picture of a police station on fire. My mind went to major concern immediately, because it I mean, you talk about a location or an institution or what have you, where the people that operate in that space are essentially armed and kind of tasked to use force against others, in which we've already witnessed. And my first thought was like, how much more is this going to exacerbate more of these types of actions? And then immediately I thought that if riots and things start breaking off around the country, like it just things were going to turn out in the way that they have been, essentially. As I've been seeing around the country, it's just, people kind of reacting to what had been going on. And so it was more so a concern of the state of mind of the people that were going to be out, kind of responding to these reactions or these actions. And then I guess when I think my Gia actually had texted me or messaged me a couple days ago or so, which was with the message about what was happening with or what occurred in Richmond as far as the curfew. And I think that was the first time I witnessed or heard of anything of a curfew. So I didn't even know what was going on in Richmond, if there was any protests or riots. Well, I'll say, I would say there were protests that may have turned into riots. I wasn't there to know exactly what happened, or what occurred around. But it concerned me for her sake because of how she responded or sent that message to me. And not knowing, I think her message was, saying, I don't know what to feel right now. I don't know what to think, or something like that. So my first thought went to her 2 daughters, and how these actions could cause more fear. And so I think I informed her to inform herself even more. Like, think about, at least in the regards of like curfews, where have curfews existed before in our history? How did those play out? And then arm yourself, or just arm yourself with knowledge and information so that you know how to better prepare yourself moving forward, and not just react out of the emotion of, I'm concerned and I don't know what to do. It's like, find a way to know what to do is what was my reaction. And so that was kind of, that was my reaction was concern as well immediately. I was like, man, curfew, what does this mean? And it's right up the street. And it's like, it might not be here, but it could be here soon where I am. So, my first, after I, kind of moved through that, within minutes, I was just like, let me just look up and see what I can find information wise, and kind of calm myself so that I could think forward, and think forward with progress. So, from there, there's been lots of thoughts, but I'll let somebody else get the floor to, kind of continue the conversation and get some more reactions.
Yeah, in this day and age, we do have access to information, which I think, number one, everyone has the opportunity and I think responsibility to arm themselves with that. As we continue, go ahead, Majida, won't you respond to your interaction with Mensa and what was going through your mind throughout the week?
As to piggyback on the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, it occurred like immediately after that conversation. Like, we had a conversation about mental health, and then like literally 2 days later, we have this incident with George Floyd occurring. And so it, like, you don't realize how much things are going to affect you until they occur. And so when it occurred, it was just like, it's been heavy. It's just been like a lot of weight the last couple weeks to carry. And it's been difficult to like stay mentally focused on just the day-to-day routine or schedule that I'm supposed to keep. I'm still going to work every day. I'm still being a mother. And in the midst of all of that, mentally, like, I've got to deal with this trauma that's occurring, and that has occurred over time, and it continues to occur, unfortunately, in our society. And so I think it caused me to take pause and really just like sit back and really reflect on like, what is it that I can do differently to affect change moving forward? Like, what can I do? You know, like what I've been doing didn't stop it from occurring. So what shift can I make? What pivot can I make so that my impact can influence something different moving forward? And so it's really gotten me to shift my mindset on like how I can make more of an impact within my community, not just from me progressing myself and educating myself, but like how can I be more influential and expose other people in meaningful ways to, like you said, the information and the education that will empower us to be able to take I'm not gonna say take back control, but like take control of our own futures. Like I think we really, you know, I've seen a lot of information about economic empowerment and things like that, and so it's really encouraged me to like position myself. You know, I was at a global women's summit last week, and one of the things that, you know, one of the speakers said was that you have to be positioned to pivot. Like everybody's talking about pivoting with everything that's going on, but you got to be positioned to pivot, you know, because something could occur, and if you're not positioned, you don't know what pivot to make. And so educating yourself, informing yourself, investing in yourself are ways that you can be positioned so that when things occur, you can, with a clear mind, make a shift and start to move in a different direction. So that's for me what's been like the biggest thing, is just like mentally getting myself the work that needs to be done within society is more than just like punching the clock. You know, like, yes, I've had a great career and I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had, but like I feel like I'm meant to do more. Like that's not the end for me. And there's more that needs to be done. And so that the future for my children isn't, you know, the same. It's not, you know, like I don't want to 20 years from now and be like dealing with the same issues because I was unwilling to make a shift now so that they have a different fight. You know, we can always have something to fight, but like let it be something different. You know, like we've been dealing with this stuff for like way too long. And I think in the midst of the pandemic, this event occurring, it's really causing people to like wake up and really take what's the term? Take
ownership, responsibility.
Ownership. Yeah, I can't think of the term, but yeah.
I feel like I know what you're talking about. Like to wait a moment.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
I know
if it comes to me.
I'm gonna find it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's inventory.
That's yep. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, take inventory of, you know, where you are and what it is you can do and continue to do. Like it's not just in a reaction mode. Like I've never been one to just react to what's going on, but it's just like there's more I can do, you know. And so really investing in what that is and making steps in that direction, you know, like, all right, it's time to make moves in this direction. Like there's no more making excuses. There's no more waiting. There's no more like perfect timing. Like the time is now to take action. So that's how I've been feeling.
Time is now to take action. Definitely heed that, Maurice.
My thoughts on the events of the past couple of weeks. The people, man, the people are so much more. The people are where the power is. The people are very powerful. That was my thought as all of this went down. Like as all of this started to go down. I just kept thinking, you know, all week, the people united will never be defeated. I don't know why that just kept sticking. It just kept sticking in my head, man. All week, the people united will never be defeated, right? So, the individual is much more powerful when the people stick together and the people demand that something happens, then they get listened to, right? So, my thoughts on the protests and stuff, you know, I'm not gonna say it's the most sustainable way to do things, but it is. I mean, that's how you get that. They're getting people's attention.
Right.
They're getting people's attention. You know, bottom line. So, certain types of pushback and feedback don't get attention sometimes, and then other types of feedback gets grabs people's attention. And so what the public, how the public responded this week got people's attention. And I guess one of the good things about an event like this happening is it does encourage people to do exactly as Majida said just now. It encourages people to take inventory. It encourages people to take to look at themselves, right? And re-examine things. It forces people to have the conversation. It forces people to begin to at least have the dialogue, right? And so if we're gonna ever fix anything, we gotta be able to have the dialogue. And just events like this give people, the people that feel that the people that are trying to get the attention, it gives them a chance to be heard. It gives people a chance. It gives them a chance to educate people about what the plight is, what the problem is, right? And people get to see a different side of the problem. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people this week, I hear a lot of people this week. How can I put it? I hear a lot of people from the information that I've been looking at this week. They are seeing things from a different light, right? It's like we've been knowing these things been going on in the community all of this time, but there's a lot of people that are just now saying, you know, with this most recent event, it's like I never knew, you know, I never knew it was like that. And so, you know, just these type of events give a chance for everybody, for things to be heard and for things to be seen, and for things to be understood in a way that they weren't understood before. And like I said, man, the people, when it's, to me, it's beautiful to see the people come together for a common cause. To me, it's beautiful. And I'm not talking about the looting or the rioting and all of that good stuff. I'm talking about, generally speaking, what has been happening, which is majority or a peaceful protest. So like that's a beautiful thing, man. When something happens that makes the people feel something, you know, like I think about, you know, Obama when he first ran for president in 2008. Like he caused an emotion in people that caused them to act in a way that they didn't normally act, right? And the polls reflected that. And so this is one of those things right here that it invokes an emotion in people, right? And unfortunately, pain is the thing that teaches us. Like things going right and things going good don't teach us anything. That's unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. So, you know, events like this give us a chance to learn. And I think there's a lot of people out there that's looking, that on both sides, the people that feel oppressed and not listened to, and the people that are on the other side as well. I think both of them, I think there's a majority of a big group of both of them from both sides that's taking a different look at things. And so, you know, it's not good what happened, but how do they say, birth is painful. Birth is painful. That was kind of my thought.
I appreciate that. And I'm looking at the comments. You know, Delvin, thank you. Yasmin, thank you for joining in tonight. You know, Delvin says, I feel like the narrative is shifting with a lot of people that prior didn't understand a lot, which kind of echoes what you were talking about there, Maurice.
Yeah.
And, you know, Yasmin says, you know, what happens next? Very proactive. You know, we marched in, it dies down. Another incident happens, we march, it dies down. What's the next step? And I feel like a lot of people are feeling that way in this moment. Just going back and recapping, you know, the reactions that I heard from you all, Mensa, was to protect and inform yourself, right? Or to inform and protect yourself, you know, in that order. So inform and protect yourself, because without information, you definitely could be following, you know, blindly and find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. Secondly, Majida talked about positioning yourself and pivoting. in the moment. You know, you have to position yourself before you pivot, but being prepared to make that pivot starts with positioning yourself, you know, whether it's you know, through information, through economics, and other things. And Maurice brings an optimistic take, man. It's a beautiful moment seeing people coming together and being able to take advantage of the togetherness, the peaceful protests in order to unify toward a common good. So I like the idea of the, you know, the conversation shifting, the spotlight that's on this moment right now as well. For me, you know, I have a little bit of a different take and radical. I mean, it takes a little bit of what Maurice says from an optimistic standpoint, and I want to turn it on its head a little bit, because a part of me feels like we haven't had a greater opportunity to make and enforce and really implement a change in our society, for those, especially for those who are actively working in it, and then for those who've been sitting on the couch not really knowing what to do. Right? Throughout this entire quarantine, I have been taking the quarantine quite seriously, you know, to the point where, you know, if I don't have to go out, I'm not going out. All right. I've been, because I understand, again, from a scientific standpoint, the only way to control and manage it is through, you know, awareness, testing, and knowing where the virus is moving so that we can stop it and end it. So for me, it's like being still and being able to capture all that's going on is really, I think, enhanced my abilities to observe what's going around. At the same time, it's limited my field of vision a little bit, because I've been, like I said, head to the ground, so focused on, you know, our economic empowerment that we've been working on just individually. So when the news came to me, you know, my initial feelings was, you know, I was surprised. I was a little bit shocked. Like, this has been going on for 3 days and I haven't heard or seen anything. So it's obviously reached a fever pitch where it's reached me in a remote space that I've been, you know, quarantined in. And so from there, it was similar to what Mental talk, informing myself and understanding, okay, similar to what Yasmin pointed out, okay, what comes next, right? So I'm looking out and I'm listening for resources about who's working on next steps. I see, you know, in Richmond and other places, they're taking down monuments. In DC, you know, it's putting messages on the street and painting, you know, Black Lives Matter, you know, heading into the White House. That, as Mental saw, that there are peaceful protests going on. There are protesters who are stopping violent acts, you know, and then there's the police and military response that's almost inciting additional violence, you know, and I'm seeing videos of things over and over again, and you're only getting clips, you're not getting the whole picture. I recognize this, but the feel I'm getting just from, you know, almost this command center where I'm observing what's going on is that we're at a tipping point, right? For those familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, recognizes that, you know, things build up to a point where, you know, what's that thing that can push us over the edge? All right, what is it that each individual, as Maurice mentioned, can do to take action and start to move things forward, right? Because I imagine, like Yasmin, a lot of people are feeling, what do I do next, right? And some information came from a website, howwefight.com. It's how-we-fight.com. Talks about a simple 2-point plan established by Brian F. Wilson. Yeah, Brian Wilson, Wilson Academy in Georgia. So shout out to all of those who are making this shift. But he talks about 2 main points. I just want to read a couple of points from the plan, if I may. He said the riots have taken place all over the country and now all over the world are inevitable, effective, and necessary. The problem is rioting is not a sustainable path to what we want. Why this is happening, in order to find a solution, we must first understand why this is happening. The reason that officers or private citizens acting as if they are officers of the law continue to murder us is because we can offer no consequence. For example, the reason you don't see so many people from other communities being murdered by police is because they can provide economic consequences. They own things collectively, and they built a strong community by focus on exclusive internal growth and wealth building, right? And I want to come back to those points because I think that's really what we want to pivot, focusing on exclusive internal growth and wealth building. But when members of the Black community are murdered by white officers or vigilantes, we peacefully protest, focus on whatever election is upcoming. Ultimately, there are no convictions for the criminals. There's something that we missed about how the civil rights movement was effective. Protesting was just the beginning. You know, so for those who are listening in, recognize that this is just the beginning. And we know it's been going on for decades now. It was to unify the people and bring attention to the issue, which I think is effectively done all over the world now in this climate. But the next step is always economic action, boycotting, investing in our communities. Then that economic action is what forced legislation. The reason our efforts continue to fall is because we, first of all, keep asking for change instead of forcing it. But secondly, because we keep skipping a critical step in the process. All right, and I'm gonna leave it at that, but I wanna shift the conversation a little bit. So what comes next? We talk about economic empowerment, economic action, boycotting, and forcing a legislation and forcing an economic agenda. What is your response, or how do you feel about what you can do, or the idea of forcing the economic response, you know, on the tail end of this, the riots and not riots, on the protests?
I think for a lot of people, people know and understand that in this country, money talks, period, you know, and understanding the power in our dollars is something that we haven't really, I don't think we've understood fully, like not collectively. Some people have understood it, not all. And so collectively understanding like where you spend your money is where you see value. And so it's being more intentional, right? Like it comes back to intention. Like one of my good friend of mine, Salethia Johnson, talks about our relationship with money, but she gets to the root of our values and intentions when it comes to money. And so, you know, working in finance, I understand that people spend where they see value. And so it's shifting your mindset to question whether where you're spending your money is providing value to you, right? To what Maurice said, causing people to take inventory. Like we spend our money a lot of times unconsciously. The new iPhone come out, let me get that. The new Jordans come out, let me get that. It's a reaction. It's not something that you consciously even think about a lot of times. And so if we start to consciously think about how and where we spend our money and start to think about the values that we have when it comes to money and the intentions that we have as we spend our money, we may spend our money differently. I'm not gonna tell anybody how to spend their money, like that's on you. But at least have the conversation, start to reflect and think about, is where I'm spending my money providing value to me and my family, to me and my community? And if the answer is no, then make a decision to shift how you're investing and spending your money.
Oh, I like that. Mic drop on that.
I jump in and piggyback. Yeah, to kind of piggyback off that, I was having to start maybe a couple of days ago, and thinking about the how we spend our money, and what communities we support by how we spend our money, what we value. And one thing that's always kind of been on my mind has been, if we were blessed to be raised to not necessarily be so materialistic, and we didn't grow up with I don't think any of us grew up with Jordans. I think the one pair that I had was some hand-me-downs from a good friend of mine. We were in elementary school, so they didn't last too long as our feet was growing. We had, but we were buying the Walmart brand. I bought Shaq shoe. I had those for a couple of pairs. But like we didn't necessarily praise the Gucci's or the Chanel's or anything. We didn't have access to that, so it was never really of value to us growing up. And so it never really had any attachment to it. You know, growing, it was like, all right, somebody was talking about their Ralph Polo shirt they got. My head was always like, why is that so, like, and then, as things started to come out, I was like, oh, you heard these people don't like our people, or they didn't make out this product for our people. And so you would think that, as easily as we can make something popular in the Asiatic culture, as easily as we infect or affect the things that we buy the most. We've kind of been recognized as kind of flashy, in recent, millennia at least. And so if it takes one rapper to popularize one brand of clothing that's Asiatic owned, imagine how fast that business can grow to become the more valued product, to where those other products from European designers and things like that lose their value, at least within our community. And if we're the higher buying value of these people, then we shift the conversation, and now we're talking about the economics within our communities being funneled. And again, like, if it's that one designer that we start to praise, that that creates a platform that now the next designer can come up and say, well, I've got this item too, and maybe this person specializes in men's apparel, but there's a woman who specializes in women's apparel. So now you have women's clothing being praised. And now we have, we're building that thing to where we get down to the shoes. Big Baller Brand was probably the closest thing we had to that. That was essentially, it seemed like it was built out of just, his own production. Was that Ball? What's his first name?
Lamar.
Yeah. Nah, LeVar.
LeVar Ball.
LeVar Ball. And yeah, so I mean, like, he was creating a product that he could pass down to his children, that I did see actually a lot of people support. But it was an opportunity, for us to really get behind and back a product that we could raise to the level of anything else if we just saw fit, But our reaction, usually our first reaction is, what's that? Those are fake V's, or this is something else, as opposed to praising that product. But the community has begun to change that narrative and start to share those resources as information is available. I think it's just a matter of continuing to grow that energy and really opening up that access and sharing that, and saying, oh, this person is a greeting card maker, and you can get all your greeting cards from this person, and you can get images of people that look like you, and support that community to where now we don't have to reside or go to Hallmark to get those. You can find this designer and build that business, so that now that it becomes as successful as that. And then again, that funnels back into the community, where you get more people interested in creating businesses for themselves and using their talents to create things for our community again. Yeah, I'll stop there.
And the conversation, I appreciate those insights, man. It's less about the material per se, but those products and those services are extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, tennis shoes, or the new Big Baller or greeting card may not be what's going to turn the tide in civil conflicts like what we're talking about here. But being able to build up businesses that can be that can fund these movements, these change, that can shift, because there's an individual effort that each and every one of us could put and must put toward change, shifting the cause, or creating a cause. Supporting the cause. That's where I'm going. Maurice, I started thinking about you. Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm kind of piggybacking on what Majida was saying, and the initial question that you asked about forcing economics. This is just a question. How without an event like what happened this past week, a couple of weeks ago, with the brother George Floyd, without an event like that happening, excuse me?
I said, say his name. That's right.
Yeah. Without an event like that happening, which obviously would cause people to say, all right, we got to start looking to build our own communities, right? And we got to start doing our own economic thing. Without an event like that as the impetus, how do we get, how do you transform Like, okay, if I spend my money on Gucci, Chanel, Jordans, an Apple Watch, an Apple phone, if I do spend my money on these things because I see value in these things, like how do you change that without an event, a traumatic event like what happened this past week happening? How do you get people to stop valuing their polo shirts and their Tommy Hilfiger and their Jordan?
I feel like if you see a company create a shirt that mimics blackface, that should be sign enough. There ain't nobody get killed from that. Come on, you know?
It should be.
You know?
But like Majida just now said, you know, and I'm not speaking to everybody, you know, we are quick to line up for the latest fashions, for the latest Jordans, for the latest whatever. We quick to do that. And you can't tell me that people don't know that these companies don't make their clothing for us. Like people, like that's known now. I mean, I would think that's just my thought. I'm thinking like, how do you get a person to do that? If y'all understand my question.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. And I could say, look, no single one of us have all the answers, but I think that's one of your strengths, Maurice, is being able to bring those poignant questions to the forefront. I'd like to take a stab at this. If you go ahead, my dear.
No, go ahead.
One of the things is it takes some sort of adversity. I think that you know, when things are good, you know, when you're living in abundance, I bless you.
Excuse me.
When you're living or operating in a space of abundance, it's hard to imagine, you know, going without something or making a shift that would make that much of a difference, right? Because things are plentiful for you. I think especially in you know, within this climate of the global pandemic, we're seeing, and I think all of us have had enough time to, you know, they say 90 days to change a lifestyle, right? I think all of us have been quarantined for more than 90 days, right? So many people have shifted to taking a look at the essentials. I mean, your family has, right? Your children are at home, they're not at school. Like, you're living in a quarantine environment.
Hey, well, hold on, real quick. All of them at home and I'm at work. I ain't in quarantine. I'm on vacation. I'm joking. Go ahead. I'm just joking.
I love that.
My wife is sitting right here in front of me.
It's all good. But what I imagine is it takes adversity in order to appreciate the things that you do and don't have, and to see, okay, maybe I need to shift my intention towards something that's going to add more value. Because, you know, here's one thing I know about wealthy people. They're always looking for an edge. Always looking for an edge. And I'm not just talking about financially wealthy, but I'm talking about people who are living wealthy in all of their areas. You know, they're living wealthy in their faith. They're living wealthy in their marriages and relationships. You know, they're living wealthy in, of course, financially. They're living wealthy in their time freedom, right? In control of the things they're doing. They're wealthy in their community contributions, all right? So the people who are in, you know, I imagine who are working and directing their energy toward those spaces, who are social activists, et cetera, they are doing the work because they've already decided and declared an intention. But for the majority of the masses, as we all know, and I don't want anyone to take this one offensively, the majority of us are ignorant about most things. No one person knows everything about everything, right? We have access to information, but what's going on in the center of Minneapolis is not having any bearing on my life until it becomes something this visible, and it's part of a systemic system. Yeah, a part of a systemic set of actions that can trickle and flow, and has trickled and flowed all across the country. You know, we all feel this one because we've seen it shouted out for weeks and months and years, right? For years now.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think the gravity of this particular situation, not that there haven't been other situations, the length of time that people bore witness to that act, like it set with people, you know what I mean? Like they couldn't ignore it. It wasn't just like a one and done, he got shot, he was running from the cops. Like, you literally saw a person essentially tortured, you know what I mean? Like, almost tortured on video. And so, like, that weighed on people. And so when you talk about adversity, like, I don't necessarily feel like adversity has to occur, to answer Maurice's question, in order to shift the conversation, or to get people to think differently. And this is something that we all are aware of because of how we were raised, if people saw themselves as members of a collective, as members of a community, as members of a nation, they would act differently. Like, period, point blank. You know, like, we could have that conversation genuinely. Like, I've seen some members, you know, some people comment as we're talking today. And essentially that's it. Like, that's what unites all of us, is the belief that we are part of a nation. And when you're part of a nation and you're part of something bigger than yourself, you don't act independently. You know that your actions impact and affect the rest of your nation. And so you're going to do things differently. You're going to think differently. You're going to progress differently, because you're looking at, what am I doing for the nation? Not what am I doing for me? What am I doing for myself? And unfortunately, we've been, what's the word? I don't want to use brainwash.
Conditioned,
socialized, to believe. Right. All of those terms. Conditioned and socialized.
America. Yeah.
To believe that we are independent, right? Whatever you do, all you have to do is work hard. As long as you work hard and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do the work, you can succeed. And no, this is cliche, right? No man is an island, right? And no one builds wealth by themselves. No one has power alone. So when you hear about, you know, what you spoke of when you mentioned the Wilson Academy and the two-step process, or two-point system
plan,
right? The 2-point plan. He referenced other communities, or essentially other nations of people who, because their commonality, because they see or they have common culture, language, values, traditions, because of that commonality, they're willing to work together. And that's something that we as a people have, it was stripped from us, but we have to learn to get back to. And once we recognize that, then we can really start to have a conversation. We don't need somebody to die to want to make changes economically, or to want to move our dollars elsewhere. We will be doing it already. It will be part of who we are.
So I'm gonna, strong point, right? We drop that mic right there. It'd be a part of who we are. And I think that's a huge point, because, you know, there's so many narratives about, you know, white America this, black America that, brown, Latino, all these different
colors.
First, we do have to acknowledge that we exist in a racially and socialized, separated nation, right? First of all, I don't care what your background is, but first acknowledge that we do exist in a society that does socialize and segregate us based on, you know, the color of our skin or our nationality and background. But I recognize each and every one of us were brought up in a mindset, in a community where we saw every being as part of our family, that we are part of one human family. And that's not to ignore the varieties and the differences in the nationalities and the cultures that go in to make that, you know, that communal body. You know, the arm ain't the same as the heart. We got different organs and all of these different pieces, but we work together as one body. You know, I know those in the faith community would attest to this idea of all this being part of one body, but not operating together. You know, if my arm is constantly punching me in the face, you know, I'm not gonna last very long attacking myself like that. So we recognize we've got parts of our body that, for lack of a better word, are cancerous. Right? When we talk about racial injustice, it's a cancer in our society. And once those who recognize, man, I'm either going to be part of the immune systems that's going to fight and battle this, or I'm contributing to the cancer, right? In everything that I do, in my actions, in my economics, in my socializations, in my conversations, in my ignorance, right? Either I'm part of the cancer or I'm part of the immune system that's going to battle and fight this, right? But you got to be part of the healing solution as opposed to, you know, creating chaos. And there are those that are just meant to be agents of chaos. Like, I understand that, but their power can't be greater than those. Like what I'm seeing, we gotta outnumber. There's no that we don't outnumber the police and military as a society. There's no way that, all right, that the police and military can outnumber the people. So we already have the power to strength in numbers, but fear can be really powerful in controlling the minds and the actions of the people.
True.
And the only way to combat that fear is what I'm hearing. One of the ways is, for one, yes, you got to know yourself and address that, but also recognizing that you know, is a physical principle that I'm thinking is one of Newton's principles, that equal and opposite force.
Oh, inertia.
Yeah, inertia principle. You know, I can't put it into words right now, but you all know what I mean. But
that one.
What?
Go ahead.
That
for every force, there's an equal and opposite.
There you go.
For every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that this this reaction of force is necessary. You know, that we have an economic. We have the force of economic. It's like Maurice said. What the U.S. understands is dollars and cents. All right, money talks. Money talks in this nation. So, what are some choices? What are some choices that we as individuals, that we as a community, we as a family, can begin to make? I know the initiative talks about, you know, shifting our money into so-called Black-owned, Asiatic-owned restaurants, not minority-owned, but specifically those that, you know, are supportive of a community that is, you know, being targeted for the suppression. What are some other ways that you begin to shift your economics in order to support causes that are going to forward, you know, social justice?
We got to be producers, not just consumers. We have to create more. Right, like Vince is an artist, so he's a natural creative, right? Like, he's always creating, and I think, you know, we've learned that our heaven on earth, we create, right? We are creators that make our own, and so if we want better, we have to do better. Like, we have to take ownership. We have to take responsibility for what we produce and what we create. Like, you can't always consume and expect to keep eating. Like, somebody's producing whatever you're consuming. And so if you're not producing and you're just consuming, you're reliant on the producer. And if you're not a producer, you're gonna get left behind. You're gonna be at a disadvantage. So that, for me, would be a way, you know, just aside from just shifting money from one place to another, produce and create something. Yeah. Provide a service, produce a product that can help and benefit other people.
I think to go along with that, kind of ties in becoming self-reliant. You know, there's many things that we can all easily do to help support ourselves, so that I think simple things like being able to change the oil in your car, change your tire, something like that will save, you know, first time, or maybe not time, maybe that's what you're giving up, but it saves where you're spending your dollar and how you're spending your dollar, to where you can take that extra money and put it towards something else. And so, and you know, that kind of I think that ties in with producing, because it gets you in the mindset of creating. Because now that you're doing action on your own, now you're learning how you can take that energy and put it towards something that you can produce that's maybe more unique to what it is that you're interested in. Because again, we all have gifts and talents that are meant for us to share with the world. And so, in finding ways to take those things, or in finding what it is that we're gifted and talented at, if we haven't done that, we have that opportunity to, you know, kind of support and put our energy towards, you know, who, our community and who our audience is. As many of us now have the energy again to, how do we give back to our community? How do we support ourselves? And so if we learn how to be self-reliant individually, that energy gets built collectively, and now we're becoming a self-reliant community and not necessarily waiting for someone to give us, you know, rights or anything of that nature. We claim our rights by becoming self-reliant. I think I put that. Yeah.
And I'd like to piggyback on that just a little bit, because those were both really good points that Majida and Mensa brought up. I was thinking, as y'all two were speaking, I was thinking education is how we shift the narrative. You know, creating as opposed to consuming, producing as opposed to consuming, and becoming self-reliant. Like, they just listening at those things, producing as opposed to consuming, and self-reliance. Well, we got tools like what we on right now. We got digital tools like what we're on right now that allows you to be able to educate yourself, that allows you to be able to create instead of, or to produce instead of just consume, and allows you to become like self-learning is huge right now. And that's one of the reasons why I love platforms like Google and YouTube. Like, there was a time that if you wanted to learn, you had to traverse the earth. You had to walk from one side of the earth to the other if you wanted to learn something. But now it's all right on the digital technologies that we have access to on our phones. So I most certainly agree with that. We have to get to a place where we produce more than we consume, and we got to get to a place of self-reliance. But how do we become self-reliant? That's through education. And we are surrounded by education right now. We're surrounded by information. One thing that we're not lacking, I think we already spoke on this earlier, is the information, right? So if you want to know how to, you can learn the rudiments of anything right on Google. And it trips me out every single time I'm talking to a person or I'm listening to a conversation where one person is asking questions that you could easily just Google. Like, you could easily Google that, you know what I mean? And have all of the information right there in front of you. So it's time to become self-reliant, and it's time to produce more than we consume. And the tools are there. The tools are there and available for us to be able to use, to be able to reach out. Like, each one of us got the ability to be able to, like what we're doing right now, we got the ability to reach out to the rest of the world from my kitchen table. That's freaking crazy. And educate people, right? And Brother Mensa talked about, you know, something that you would say is as insignificant as being able to repair a car. Well, I mean, there are people that are building up their followings online around their ability to be able to fix a car, to change the brakes and to change the spark plugs. And that's an example to me of self-education and utilizing those self-education platforms. It's right there for us to be able to use. So education absolutely is what's going to empower us to be able to create more than we consume, because that's a huge piece. And the self-reliance, like a beggar nation can never be free, right? So we have to be more reliant on ourselves. But how do we do all of that? We start by using the tools that's available. We start by using the technologies that's available. And we educate ourselves on how to do it. Anything you want to know, you can just go and type in how to. And again, you can pretty much pick up at least the rudiments of it right there at your fingertips, right on your smartphone. So education, that's what I was thinking as Majida and Mensa was offering their 2 cents on that subject.
Absolutely.
Real quick on that though, something that you mentioned, and I think we overlook it, utilizing the tools, not being on them, right? Like, that's a distinct difference. Right, like, use your phone, right? I talk to my daughter, she's 5, right? But I talk to her all the time. I'm like, are you using the phone or are you on the phone, right? because watching a bunch of YouTube videos, unless you're doing, what do you call it? Unless you're doing research about how to be a creator, like, what are you watching? Why are you watching someone else live their life? Why are you watching someone else produce and you're just consuming what they're feeding you, right? You know, and maybe that's a little harsh for 5, but it's like, if we don't start to teach them that now, they'll grow up and be conditioned and socialized to just be on their phones, be on technology, but not utilize it to invest in themselves and to educate themselves. And that's what we really, like, we it's intention, kind of back to what I said earlier. We have to shift our intentions, not just with our money, but with our minds. And, you know, something that you brought up earlier about feeling, right? Like, in this society, like, feeling is always one of those things. It's like, you ain't got time to feel. Like, business, you know, it's not about feeling, right? But like, emotion is what creates motion. Like, people move when they feel something, and people have been desensitized for too long to not feel, right? Like, I can speak to that for myself. Like, you ain't got time to feel. You got work to do. You ain't got time to feel. You got a job to get done. And like, ignoring your emotions is normal. That don't work anymore. We're in a society, or we're in a era now where, like, you need to trust your feelings, you need to trust your emotions, and you need to act accordingly. I'm not saying be like emotional, right? But at the same time, be intuitive with your emotions in how you're making, and like, trust that, like, if I'm feeling something, there's a reason for it, and let me take that emotion and channel it in the right way, take that energy and channel it in the right way so that it affects change. And we do it naturally, you know, speaking as a mother, like, you do it naturally when it comes to your children. Like, somebody come after my child, or somebody put, you know, if my child is in harm's way, or I think my child is in danger, right? That emotion is going to cause me to do whatever I have to do to protect that child, right? That's intuitive. We've got to take that same intuition when it comes to protecting ourselves and our children, and look at it in protecting our lives and our future, right? We got to look at it on a macro level, if you will, not just on my family and my, you know, this little singular, like, no, everybody that I'm speaking to right now, you know, the people who are listening in, like, they're part of a larger community, and understanding that we, right, every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing.
Absolutely.
And understanding that connection. Go ahead, Maurice.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I could start rambling. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we definitely part of a community, y'all. We large. Y'all just don't know how many of us it is. Y'all have no clue.
Oh, and thank you again for all of those tuning in who are part of the community, part of the discourse, part of the conversation tonight. And we appreciate you all. I mean, there's so much more that we can add to this. You know, each and every one of us creating in our own spaces. You know, Maurice to reach out to the trucking community, as well as those who want to build, you know, YouTube networks and websites. Mentor in the creative arts space. I mean, he's got jobs and things from all over the place, from universities to galleries to, you know, cities, you know, putting up his work in all over the places. Majida, she's, you know, becoming, like I say, everybody's financial friend, or friend in finance. You know, reaching out to mothers, entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, those who are working to create some sort of, you know, wealth, and then myself building up a connection with those in the trading community. So learning to invest and to take our money and get our money working for us, and teaching and learning skill set to build generational wealth from your home, from your phone, like using your phone as an ATM to be able to create finance from the palm of your hand just by learning a certain skill. So, you know, we wanted to talk tonight about investing in yourself in various ways, because without investing in yourself, we're going to continue to see more of what we spend time in. Investing in each other and in community, right? Like, I support each and every one of them, of those on here in their businesses and in their efforts, right? For those that are connected to me, there's so many different groups, you know, Black business groups, We Buy Black, you know, like, plug in and utilize those resources. You know, when you have a service, something that you want, check in with your community first, because we've got to circulate dollars here to be able to grow that economic power, to be able to mandate and force an equitable agenda on those who will sit back and just allow the status quo, to persist. I know that people like us have been doing the work in our own families and our own communities. I think here's an opportunity to give voice to, give face to those that are continuing to do the work, right? And by no means, we're the ones marching and actives on the street. Man, I had my time. And I ain't giving up. Like, if I need to be out there, I will be out there. But I know what's powerful is connecting with people who are working toward building our own communities through, developing skills, to educating others, to creating businesses, right, and business outlets all over the country, right, through building networks like this. So please, somebody throw in the chat, we are Maurice, Majid, Mensa, Bakar, and a few others. We're growing, as a SEER mastermind group, investing in ourselves, sharing our story, our journey, our way. Grateful for each and every one of you here, man. The conversation definitely can continue, but I just wanted to put a pin in it there. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and trust that. Well, let me ask you before we leave. What are some actions? What are some actions that you want to take and maybe urge others to take? I posted a couple of links. Check out, how we fight, and if that's part of something that aligns with your values, take action. But what are some things that you all can and will take action on in order to support this shift, this moment, this pivot toward economic equality? Well, not economic, but social equality.
Yeah, business ownership, man, and financial literacy, like super duper important, man. I got a daughter that just turned 18. You know what I'm saying? And the world is hers at this point. You know what I mean? So definitely.
And I think it's interesting that you bring up
the world's.
No, and I think it's interesting that you bring up your daughter being 18 and financial literacy and business ownership being important now. For those who have children that are younger than 18, they'll be 18, God willing, someday. So start thinking about that now. Start educating yourselves now. Start modeling for your children now. Because until they're able to put dollars behind agendas, behind protests, behind legislation, we will remain powerless. Majida, anything else?
I mean, I think for me, it's a daily action to model what I want for the next generation. So my intention is always, am I living the life that I want for my children? And if I'm not, I need to constantly be like shifting and repositioning and making changes and growing and getting better and learning and like constantly. And it's not that I'm ever going to get to a point, but what I'm modeling is continuous growth. What I'm modeling is personal development. And if they see that, trustfully, they learn the lesson that like learning doesn't stop when you graduate high school. Like that's the beginning. Learning doesn't stop when you graduate college. That's just the next step, right? And understanding that like success is not a point in time, right? It's a journey that never stops. Like you never stop succeeding, right? It's an act, right? We were listening to Eric Thomas in that podcast a few weeks ago. Like success is a continuous act, right? You succeed, right? You win the race, and then there's another race, right? You win that race, and then there's another meet. And like there's never a stopping point. And it's not that you're chasing some finite thing. You're constantly becoming better, a better version of yourself. You're constantly growing yourself. And I think that's what we need to embrace. Like you don't just get to a point and become stagnant. Like we as human beings have the ability, we have the capacity, we have unlimited potential to progress. And so as we understand that, like, what's stopping you from growing but you? If we got information at in the palm of our hand, the only thing stopping you from accomplishing what it is you want to accomplish or achieving what you want to achieve is you. Yes, there are systems in place that will deter you or detour you, but it can't stop you. Because where there's a will, there's a way. Like, I just believe that, because anything that I've wanted to accomplish, right, and not made excuses about, I've been able to do. Right? I didn't get a degree in civil engineering by accident. I made a decision that I wanted a degree in engineering, and I figured it out. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I knew I had to graduate in 4 years, and I had to get at least a good enough grade in those classes to graduate with the degree, you know? And I think sometimes we stop ourselves because we figure that the barriers of entry are too high, right? The challenge is too great, and we're not willing to make the shift. We're not willing to overcome that obstacle. And once we realize that, like, if you believe that you can, you will. But it really comes back to what I said earlier. You got to know yourself. And if you don't invest time in doing that, like knowing who you are, understanding your purpose, right? Right? You need to speak to your creator. You need to pray. Whatever you need to do, you got to figure that out. And it took a long time for me to figure that out. But it's like now I'm in a space where, like, I know who I am. I know what I'm purposed to do. And I'm unapologetic about being authentically me, right? We had that conversation some weeks ago, right? Like, just being who you are unapologetically, like not trying to please nobody else, not trying to hold nobody's hand, not trying to make other people feel comfortable, right? I'm going to be who I was designed to be by something greater than me and all of us. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And what I want to help other people with is to realize that for themselves, right? I don't want nobody to be me. I just want you to be the best you could be. And if you need to be around other people that inspire and encourage you to be the best you, hey, come hang out with us, right? Like, it's really the difference, right? Being in an environment or being in a community of people who have that same belief, who have a bigger vision, who can stretch you, it will make all the difference. You got to get out of where you are and get exposed to something different. I'm not gonna say necessarily better, but you got to get exposed to something different. So then you can decide, do I want this or do I want that? But if you never see anything different, you're going to always expect that this is all I can have or this is all I can become.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm a little.
Oh no, this is your night. This is your night.
Feeling it.
Mental.
You know, I'm observant by nature, I believe, and so, you know, I'm really just watching, you know, currently, and really just taking in what it is that's current around me, and drawing correlations and trustfully, you know, that information, as it usually happens or occurs with me, you know, creates, you know, hits that chemical, whatever chemical goes off or whatever in my brain that tells me it's time to create. Using that as, you know, like the kind of the vehicle to helping others visualize what the world is, what's occurring to, you know, what's occurring around them. Because I think a lot of us had been kind of distracted and sleep to what's been going on around us all this time, you know, and it takes, you know, it's taken at least, you know, over these 90 days, you know, a loss of those distractions to be awakened to how treacherous this world can be, and being aware of that, you know, taking an opportunity to take it in, but also not react emotionally, as Majida mentioned earlier, and I'm observing. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a tough time. So, see, I think it's just just being, for me, just being observant and as I kind of naturally been, and taking the time to just be that and not be overwhelmed, so that I can create focus for myself. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit. You know what I mean? I got some restaurants around here that I plan to support once I get more comfortable with getting out of the crib. And
Hey,
things.
they got takeout.
Huh?
They got takeout.
Yeah, for sure. But it's been, with that in mind, it's been like, because of all this time being in the crib. I mean, great, I cook for myself most of the time anyway, but that's what I was speaking of earlier, like being self-reliant, that in the same ways that, you can be out here supporting businesses or local businesses in whichever way you feel, I'm also in the house doing it for myself a lot more. And so, I'm really, I haven't been very present in the social space as much, recently, kind of for that reason. It's I don't have anything publicly going on, so there's nothing publicly to share for me. So yeah. I'm gonna go there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep things. I'm all over the place these days.
And I think
Out
it's,
there, everybody, take the time to really think about what actions you're gonna take before stepping out into this world and reacting emotionally. I think it's important that everybody does take the time to really think about what can occur. I know we all kind of grew up. I mean, kind of speaking towards protests. We all were kind of raised with a sentiment of don't go out in crowds, or don't go out in large crowds. And hearing that over and over, and now seeing what's occurring in our time, it's almost just like seeing a prophecy come true. And so as we're out here with peaceful intentions, I think it's also people who don't have those same intentions, who don't support our causes, that are creating the chaos around our people that puts us in harm's way. We may be out peacefully, but it takes very little to incite something. It only takes one or two actions for someone to say, "Oh, that's okay to do," because I just saw somebody else do that. Now it becomes a bigger issue because we are all thinking for the larger picture. So I think it's probably one of the biggest messages I've been kind of focusing on this past week or so. So because I want to just at least share that.
Yeah, and I want to pay homage to all of those who are risking their lives and health in this pandemic climate to protest. Like, I think that's ridiculous that people have looked past the issues of their own. I think it's ridiculous that we've had to look past issues of our own personal as well as social health, or the health of the society, in order to address the issue of the right to live and breathe in this society. The fact that people
over social distancing.
You said what?
Social justice over social distancing. Absolutely.
People are choosing.
Absolutely.
Hashtag.
We talk about absolutely. And so I want to commend those who have been processing, who have been active on the streets, who have put their bodies in harm's way, so that we can bring voice and bring vision and bring awareness and attention to a reality that when the whole freaking world is focused on a global pandemic and how it's affecting us economically, socially, our people still got to deal with somebody literally still putting their knee on our neck. I don't even want to address the fury that I feel thinking about how we're already disproportionately adversely affected in the pandemic because of history of, social economic injustice, and having to come out of that in order to force a social justice agenda, because to someone, And to many out there, their right to take our lives means more to them individually than what we as a community, as a global family of people, are trying to protect ourselves from. I think there's a great opportunity in where we are and what we stand for, in the attention and awareness that's being brought to it. And I urge and encourage every single person to continue to action. It's still in development, but think Eric Thomas, he talked about his development initiative, 381 days. He said the protests, the marches, in Selma and Montgomery and the civil rights, the boycotts lasted 381 days. So we got reckoning, it's time to dig in, to be in for the long run, to recognize change is not overnight. I can already feel it. A week has gone by and there's this sort of teetering, this withering effect, right? What's that?
As you were saying that, I was thinking of a term I heard a while ago. It's called a quivering of the corpse. Just a quivering. You just feel the quivering right now. I don't want to get into that too much though.
And I want to imagine this time
the
next
beginning
year,
stages of change, essentially.
So it may be important for us to do an update, every other week or every other podcast we're doing, to keep the issue in front of our audience, whoever's watching, to keep it visible, to keep it, make sure it's a part of our conversations daily, that we're not dropping the ball, that we're checking in, that we're figuring out what it is we could do personally as well as communally, in order to ensure that in this decade, right, moving forward, that these questions, that these challenges, these issues are addressed, and continue to make it visible, continue to educate those around you, continue to have the conversation. Like, in my mind, sports are canceled next year. Like, I don't want to hear about them, but like, I support all of those who work in those, and I want to make sure that they continue to do what they do, because they're able to contribute much, dollars and cents. And I say sports are canceled in the sense that if I got time to think about that, I'm not thinking about this. So that's one thing I'm taking off the table. And not that, entertainment was that important, but I recognize it is a distraction, because a lot of people are waiting for the NBA to come back, or waiting for this to come back, and hoping that we're gonna have a season. Nah, sports are canceled, for 2020 until, in my mind and in my heart, and I love it. I'm a huge football fan, but it's canceled. I almost put on my Philadelphia Eagles hoodie tonight, but realized, and thank you all for showing up in black and red. But I appreciate you all tonight. Any other final thoughts, man? I got nothing else.
No, I mean, if you want,
I love my epidermis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's what that is. All right.
Yes.
Courtesy of Dr. Junior Harris.
Okay.
That's it. So continue to educate yourself. We're going to continue to invest in ourselves. We're going to continue this conversation in our next podcast, because I think that it's definitely something that needs to keep going. And let's stay updated. Let's stay connected. Let's keep building. Let's keep working together. Let's keep marching, right? Let's keep putting our bodies and our dollars on the line to ensure that legislation does change in favor. And for those who don't know, go out and proclaim who you are, right? We will talk about that next time. Go out and proclaim who you are, because nothing's going to change if your mindset don't change. That's all I got.